When was Charlie actually murdered? This question has stumped so many FNAF theorists for years. Some believe it was a Fredbear's, while others believe it happened all the way in 1987. But today, my fellow FNAFologists, we are only going to be discussing the facts and verifiable evidence because I believe I know when Charlie was murdered. Now, there are several other things that we have to go over in order for me to give you my theory. Firstly, what are the other theories surrounding the murder of Charlie Emily? Was it in 1983 at a Fredbear's location, or was it at a Freddy's location in 1987? All very good questions, but I don't think it's that complicated. Some believe she was the first due to the fact that in the FNAF 2 minigame, the building that the murder takes place outside of seems to be very small with one animatronic bear and not a lot of space, therefore hinting to the fact that it is Fredbear's family diner. Others believe that her murder actually takes place in the year of 1987, being the last murder victim, and therefore creates a tension of rivalry between Golden Freddy and the puppet as each one is trying to be the leader of all of the other remaining ghost children. But there are a lot of problems with each one of these theories. I believe that the first one makes sense to a certain degree, but to be honest, Charlie being the last murder victim of the whole entire franchise is pretty far out there, and in my opinion, you have to begin to speculate much more than you do if you agree with what I'm about to propose. I believe Charlie died in the year of 1984 at the first Freddy's location and post MCI. Here is why I think this. First of all, how do I know that it is not Fredbear's family diner? Well, first of all, the little Freddy 8-bit character looks nothing like Fredbear. Fredbear has a purple hat and bow tie, while this Freddy character has a black hat and a black bow tie. Very reminiscent of just regular Freddy at the very first Freddy's location. I think this is enough to seal the deal for me that this is not Fredbear's family diner, this is Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I also believe that this is the first location because of the fact that the Freddy character is not Toy Freddy, it is regular Freddy, and therefore that tells me that this was the next location that opened up after Fredbear's family diner. Now, for those people who believe that it happened in the year of 1987 outside the FNAF 2 pizzeria, the problem with that theory is the room itself that we see in the Take Cake to Children game. That room that has the outer door is nowhere on the map of the FNAF 2 pizzeria in the Save the Mini game. It just doesn't make any sense for it to be in the year of 1987. It is clearly not the same pizzeria. I personally believe that after the bite of 83, Fazbear Entertainment, and specifically Henry Emily, took a notice to the lack of security measures for these animatronics and children. And that's where the puppet actually came into play. He didn't create it to keep an eye on his daughter at first, instead it was to keep an eye on all of the children and make sure A, they didn't wander outside of the pizzeria, and B, not getting so close to the animatronics to where bullies are actually shoving people inside of Fredbear's mouth. It was the always watching parent that everyone has always wanted. I believe the puppet was all Henry Emily. Nothing from William, nothing from Edwin. It was only Henry's doing. He saw a problem and decided to give a solution for it. And that's ultimately what I believe the puppet was used for. Now, what location did the puppet first appear in? Well, considering he made it as a result of the bite of 83, I think it's a fair assumption to say that it was included in the very first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location, along with the original band Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. And everything was going well. I believe that the first Freddy's location opened up in the year of 1984, and that is when things took a dark turn. I believe that Charlie was murdered in the alleyway of the first Freddy's location in the year of 1984. But why do I think that, and what proof do I have? Minigames. Guys, it's all in the FNAF 2 minigames. We just have to pay attention to specific little details in order to piece together when events take place. In the minigame from FNAF 2 called Take Cake to Children, William Afton pulls up, murders her, and speeds away. That is the scene of Charlie's murder. Now, we also get another depiction of this in FNAF 6 minigame, which shows actually now the puppet box sitting right there, along with children running around with the same door and Charlie looking in from an outside window, crying and wanting to be led back inside. I think it would be pretty safe to say that in the FNAF 6 minigame, the Freddy sprite that we're playing as in the FNAF 2 minigame is just off camera handing cake to children. I believe this is the exact same location and where this is taking place. Another widely believed theory is that Charlie was actually murdered at a Fredbear's family diner location. But here's the only problem with that. It's very much a Freddy sprite, not a Fredbear. And also, the whole idea of having the marionette or the puppet really wouldn't have made any sense to be in Fredbear's family diner. The whole reason why I'm saying it was created was because of the Bite of 83 incident, as a way to make safer measures for children being in the pizzeria along with these big animatronics. Also in FNAF 4, in the cutscenes where we go to Fredbear's family diner, there's absolutely no mention or any visual reference of the marionette anywhere, which really honestly tells me that it came after Fredbear's family diner, after the Bite of 83. Again, guys, it's all in minigames. We just have to look at it and be smart about these locations that it's showing us to piece together a better puppet timeline. And so what are the events that follow Charlie's murder, which now I'm saying takes place in 1984 because of the whole minigame theory. As a result of Charlie's murder on the outside of Freddy's, it doesn't cause them to close down, but it definitely hurts their business. I then believe that the very next year, that's when William Afton commits the first 5 murders, which is the MCI incident. And now obviously by this point, the marionette is now haunted by the spirit of Charlie. And I also believe that since the marionette went out in the rain and therefore was water damaged, they stored it in the back room since it was decommissioned. The puppet was no longer in use, but it was very much still haunted by the spirit of Charlie. That is then how we get the Give Them Life minigames in FNAF 2, showing Charlie being a leader in all these spirits and giving the new children's spirits life in this new world and dynamic. And that is the end of the 1985 incident of the MCI. I then believe that in 1986, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opens their second location, which is the minigame that we see in Save Them. This location features the toy animatronics along with the Wither animatronics stored in the back room, and the marionette has been updated and is now back in functioning use. But of course, it's still haunted by the spirit of Charlie. And in the year of 1987, the Bite of 87 as well as the DCI incident takes place, where we play as Wither Freddy in the Save the minigame, where the marionette shows us the dead bodies of the children that were left throughout the pizzeria. Once again, stating the fact that the marionette has some sort of leadership power among the whole game series. I believe that after the events of the DCI, the puppet was left to rot at the next Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location, which then later was picked up by the Fazbear horror attraction of Fazbear Frights. I believe that they picked up the marionette along with all the other junk that they picked up from the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location and incorporated it in their attraction. I then believe that even though Fazbear Frights burned down, the puppet survived and was now free to roam the world. I then believe that's why Henry created Lefty in FNAF 6 to basically be a bounty hunter to find the puppet, capture it, and bring her back to the FNAF 6 location. I then sincerely believe that this is where the base story of the puppet ends. I do not think it is the end of the era, as we still see remnants of the puppet in Security Breach and Ruin. This is not the end, but it is the end, I believe, of Charlie's main story. And more importantly, I think we have a better hold on when Charlie was murdered. Was she the first or the last? She was the first. I think she always will be the first. I don't think you can get around it. Heck, that's even what's in the new movie, even though the movie's timeline isn't in direct connection with the video games. Now, one thing that I would like to cover before we conclude today's video is the contrast between the puppet and Golden Freddy. Two animatronics that are both haunted by a spirit, but both symbolize very different things. And I believe that throughout the franchise of FNAF, we see these two spirits collide again and again for what they each stand for. But first, let's look at the puppet. What does the puppet seem to symbolize? Well, considering how Charlie was killed and how the puppet actually fused itself with the soul of Charlie, it not only became a protector or a security puppet, it became a guardian. And I think that there is a detail about this on why the puppet seems to be more of a good character in the FNAF franchise, giving life and helping the other spirits move on, as opposed to Golden Freddy, which we'll talk about here in a moment. The act of the puppet falling upon Charlie and this two fusing together is an act that transforms this character into being the heart of the FNAF franchise for a long time. It's Charlie's compassion living on through the puppet, making it a protector rather than a monster. Now, what about Golden Freddy, who was, yes, a haunted animatronic as well? But let's look at the facts here. It seems like that throughout the franchise, we've learned that there are two spirits haunting the suit of Freddy. It's of course the crying child, who was the bite victim of the bite of '83, as well as Cassidy, who was an actual murder victim of William Afton's, who was tragically stuffed inside the suit and is presumed to have been spring-locked inside the suit as part of the murder process. Yeah, all really awful and terrible stuff, but at the same time, it just goes to show the difference between the Golden Freddy haunting as opposed to the puppet being haunted. I believe that throughout the games, we oftentimes see the vengeance version of Cassidy trying to get back at William Afton for what he did to him. More of a vengeful perspective on the franchise, as opposed to the puppet being more compassionate. And I think we see these two characters collide with one another throughout the franchise, especially in FNAF 3 and onwards to 6. In FNAF 3, we finally try to give closure to each one of the spirits and to finally move on. But of course, there's the one spirit that doesn't move on, that being the spirit of Cassidy, which lives on to basically make William Afton torment in Ultimate Custom Night. I think a perfect way to describe this is that the puppet, it is the heart of the story, as where Golden Freddy is merely the judge of the story. In FNAF 6, we have Lefty, who captures the marionette, which eventually burns in the FNAF 6 fire, giving closure to the spirit of Charlie, just like we hear Henry Emily say in the FNAF 6 cutscene.
My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours.
But what about Golden Freddy? Because one thing that I thought about was the fact that Golden Freddy was actually not even in the FNAF 6 location. It wasn't one of the animatronics that we did an interview with and let it into the pizzeria. There's really no mention of Golden Freddy. And personally, that's because I believe that Golden Freddy as a physical animatronic actually doesn't really exist anymore. I believe Golden Freddy was destroyed years prior in the FNAF 1 to the transition of the FNAF 2 location, which is why in the games he appears to be more of an apparition rather than a physical animatronic like the marionette or the other robots. He's very distinctly different. I think that's because he's actually not even there. It's merely the spirit appearing to the player. And I also believe that Shadow Freddy plays into a part of this. I believe that Shadow Freddy and Golden Freddy are the two sides of the two spirits which used to haunt the Freddy costume. And because the Freddy costume was somehow destroyed, these two spirits are just left to kind of roam the pizzeria and therefore trying to inflict their desires on what they want to take place. And in this case, Cassidy is definitely trying to be more vengeful and trying to bring justice to his situation and what William Afton did to him. Now, I would love to hear your thoughts concerning the idea that Golden Freddy was actually not even in FNAF 6, which is why his spirit continues to live on throughout the franchise and ultimately is how we get Ultimate Custom Night, with the fact that Golden Freddy's spirit of Cassidy wasn't destroyed, therefore giving him liberty to torment William Afton in Ultimate Custom Night. And so with that, my fellow FNAFologists, make sure to check out this other video where I dissected the transition between Fredbear's and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I will see you next time and have a fantastic day.